Hey, what's going on, K-State? Welcome to the first Sumo night. My name is Heath Alexander. Hey, can we get up for Skylar Thompson one more time for coming out? I'm excited for that first game. Hopefully, that video gave you a little bit more of a picture of what the heart of Sumo is all about. You know, what a heart really, in summation, is to help you have a real experience with God during your time in college, whatever that's going to look like for you, and really be able to help you progress in that. However long your time in college is, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what your background has looked like. I did want to introduce you to our staff team, or what we call our staff family, here at K-State with Sumo. So I want to start out with Cody and Shyla Cooper. Cody actually hails from Wichita, Kansas. He was in the farmhouse fraternity during his time here at K-State. Cody's a gifted musician. This is Shyla. She actually grew up in Kansas City, went to Mill Valley, was a student at a G5 here at Kansas State University. That's their cute little boy, Casey, who's 3 years old. And then that's Nathan there, who's a year and a half old, and she'll steal your heart quicker than anything else. These are three unique ladies that serve in an administrative capacity and really work a lot of times behind the scenes to make what you guys see and experience here with Sumo a success. So the one in the middle, that's Katie Turner, who actually saw the light in high school, grew up in Lawrence, and came to K-State and did her undergrad at Kansas State. She was part of the Kappa Delta sorority and was actually president, very national leader. Here's some Kappa Deltas in here tonight. This is Amanda Hardy, who actually grew up in San Diego, California. Rough, right? Rough life in San Diego. She was a soccer player at Azusa Pacific, and any of the videos you see that are incredible are made by Amanda Hardy. She's very gifted. She's our creative ministries director here. This is Lindsay Mickle, is a Nebraska born and raised girl. She actually went to KU for her undergrad. We'll forgive her. She's an avid KU basketball fan, but she's joined us here at Kansas State University. So there is hope for everyone. We're really excited. Mickle does a lot of work behind the scenes to make things successful here with Sumo. So we're grateful for those ladies. This is the Harrison family. Bob has been working with college students for 15 years now. Was a dual major engineer in college, so if you think you're smart, go talk to Bob and you'll lose that thought real quick. Bob was an ATO in college. His wife Alyssa was an AD Pi, actually taught for a few years after she graduated, and then married Bob and joined the Sumo staff team. This is their growing family, a family of 7. I'll start there in the middle. That's Hannah Kate. That's Josh to her right, your left, the glasses. The little boy at the very bottom with a very ornery smile on his face. Looks like he's about to do something mischievous, is Hunter. And then the even honorier and cuter smile there at the bottom is Haley. And then the newest addition to the Harrison family is little Ben right there in Alyssa's arms. This is some of our single ladies. Fellas, take notes for some high caliber women here. This is Carissa Kirkendall. She grew up in Topeka, Kansas. Came to K-State, was a classic Kappa Pi fighter in her time here at K-State. If you want to have a dance-off with her, I would highly discourage it because you're going to lose every time. The only person that can beat her is myself, so it's just, that's not true, even close to that true. This is Tasha Barker from Mound City, Kansas. I hear she's an aggressive post player, so if you're feeling pretty good about basketball, go play Tasha and she'll work the court with you. This is Summer Smith, grew up in Hays, Kansas. Was a pretty dominant high school athlete, came to K-State, joined AD Pi, was actually president of her sorority. Morgan Jansonius is a G5, actually one interesting fact about our staff team, one of 3 twins that are part of our staff team. And so her sister, Molly, went to K-State as well. Morgan's going to be doing an internship with us for this next year. Grew up in Oberlin, Kansas, out in western Kansas. This is Madison Clinton, hails from Wichita, Kansas. Trinity Academy, was an AD Pi in college. She can nail any Nacho Libre quote verbatim if you ask her to. This is a Brady family. Tommy is a Gardner Edgerton graduate, ran track and was a pole vaulter here at K-State, was an education major, and then his wife Rachel actually grew up in Upland, California, went to Azusa Pacific, played soccer. She actually worked for ministry for a couple of years, and then when her and Tommy got engaged, she joined our staff team here. That's little Titus, who is, if you ever see Titus, he's always on the move. He's going to be a great athlete someday. This is Jordan Edwards, who actually grew up in Wellington, Kansas. He actually went to Washburn University to play quarterback, and then transferred to K-State and played Pike here at K-State, was actually at one point voted, he hates it when I say this, but I say it every time, he was at one point voted K-State's most eligible Greek bachelor. So ladies, I would go meet Jordan tonight to be a good thing. Jacob Sims hails from Blue Valley. He's a legend in Moore Hall. I think they may have a statue of him or something. Aggressive wrestler. He was actually a pretty dominant wrestler in high school. I've been on the receiving end of his wrestling skills, and it hasn't been a pleasurable experience by any means. But Jacob Sims actually he's behind the scenes with a lot of these studio nights you guys see. So he puts a ton of work into making these a success. This is Blake Slaughter, who grew up in Houston, Texas. Was highly recruited out of high school, played middle linebacker, was a mechanical engineer. He actually oversees our multicultural ministry here at K-State. If you want some good, hard-hitting highlights, go look up Blake Slaughter on YouTube, and you won't be disappointed. And then lastly, this is my family. My name is Heath Alexander. I mentioned I grew up in Southwest Kansas. I actually went to 3 different universities before finishing my last 3 years playing football here at Kansas State. Was a criminology major, interestingly enough, and then graduated. For the last 10 years, I've been working here at K-State, trying to be an assistant to help people grow in their faith. The definition of our marriage is Beauty and the Beast, and not beast in a good way. I married a beautiful woman who I was definitely out kicking my coverage when I did. Tara was an 85, pre-med major. She smokes me on any IQ test. She remembers things making you look foolish. She was a K-State ambassador here at K-State. So fellas, if you want advice on how to marry up, I've got a whole book I've written on it. Our oldest daughter, Rosie, was named after my great-grandmother. She's 2 years old. And as ornery and stubborn as her dad is the best way to put it. And then Hattie is just all sweetness. And so Hattie's 11 months old. So that's our team. You know, really our heart is to help you in any way we can. If we haven't had a chance to meet you, come introduce yourself to us. If you see us tonight, if you see us on campus, let us know. Our desire is to help serve you guys. You know, that's why we're here at Kansas State, is to help you thrive in your faith, to help you develop in your faith, no matter where that means for you, or no matter where you're coming from. And so please let us know if there's any way that we can help you. Hey, once you get to know the people around you, I want you to discuss this question. As you think about this next year, what are you most excited for when it comes to the new school year ahead? So talk about that for a couple minutes, and I'm going to bring us back together. Hey, there's probably 100 different things that you guys are excited for when you think about the new school year ahead. You know, I think even Skylar mentioned it with the new era of K-State. You know, we're kind of enamored with this idea of new, rightfully so. It's kind of a gift that God's given us, is to experience new things. Here's actually the Webster Dictionary of new, is it's not existing before, made. It's introduced or discovered recently, or now for the first time. Just beginning or beginning anew, regarded as better than what went before. You know, if you've been following Kansas State for a while, you know that this university as a whole is kind of in a whole new era. We're kind of in a whole new genesis, a whole new direction. If you think about it, over the last several years, we've started doing a lot of different areas. It's up in the top right is General Richard B. Myers, who's our new president over the last several years. You know, below him is our new athletic director within the last 5 years, Gene Taylor, who's taking our athletic teams to a whole new direction and a whole new heights. To his left, Dr. Bosco, who is a legend, who built Kansas State in a lot of ways into what it is today. Is taking the mantle of Dr. Bosco is Dr. Lane, and from Missouri State. And he's our vice president, dean of students, and he's really helping lead the charge of what's going to look like to take K-State into the new era. And then Skylar mentioned it, but you know, a legend retired. Coach Bill Snyder really built the football program into what it is today. But it's also because a highly accoladed and accomplished coach like Coach Kleiman has come in and has taken over the reins. And it's exciting to think about this new era that we as a university that you guys are a part of is heading into. You know, even personally, it's like, man, any new gadgets or things you get. How many of you guys got a new computer coming to college or a new TV? Anybody? Yeah, it's like when you get something new, you're pumped and you're excited about it. How about a new car? Anybody get, maybe not a brand new car, but who got a different car coming into college? Yeah, well, I remember the day I had worked all through high school, got my new truck, you know, and was driving into my first day of college, was absolutely pumped about it. How about the AirPods? Anybody got the AirPods? Took it to dive? I'd settle for, you know, there's like a million different off-brand AirPods at the time, but $45 are actually working great. Hey, the Chiefs, it's a new era, it's a new season. We got a whole new defensive coordinator, a whole new defense. Jacob Sims thinks we're going to the Super Bowl, no doubt. Hey, the new Derby Dining Complex. Next promotion. Hey, Kramer got a facelift a few years ago. Derby in the next 2 years is going to get it. And then just the new era, we already talked about it, with K-State football. I mean, there's a reason. I had a buddy try to get tickets for Saturday's game and it's sold out. Because everybody's excited for the new era. You know, as you come into college, whether this is your 4th day on campus, or you're finishing your last semester, you know what's cool is there's this idea of new carries over into your faith. Is that new means that I get to have kind of a new experience. And a lot of times when we think about our academics, which are absolutely important or a top priority, when I think about my social life and just my development as a person, these new experiences, new classes, maybe it's a new major, maybe you're living in a new place, there's a reason even you came tonight, which I would affirm you, is to say, hey, what's it look like for me to start a new era in my faith? You know, as I think about fall of 2019, spring of 2020, what's it look like for me to approach it with the same excitement about the newness of this year ahead? So I've kind of got 3 encouragements, 3 ways that you can make the most of this year. As you think about your experience in college and making the most of your relationship with God, the first one is to have a perspective of a new you. Is that this year, as we start fall of 2019, what if your mentality toward yourself was that, hey, I'm going to kind of approach this, is that I'm a whole new me. It's a whole new you that's starting out this fall of 2019. You know, there's a couple spots you can be. You can be in one spot where it's like, man, God has been the centerpiece of your life for several months or several years. I would still encourage you to have the perspective, hey, it's a new me. As I start this semester, I don't want to rely on my success and how I've accomplished and how I've really prioritized my faith in the past. I want to keep building on it. Or maybe for you, you grew up around faith. You're pretty consistent in and out of church. You have pretty good exposure to the Bible. Well, my encouragement to you is you start this year, don't just rely on that. Or for you, maybe it was like, man, every great once in a while I would check the Sunday box. And church was something I would attend, and I didn't have a ton of familiarity with the Bible. Or you could be like one of my best friends in college I played football with that's now in a deep relationship with God, where it was like, man, there was just nothing there. Is that going to church wasn't something that he consistently did. The Bible was something he had zero exposure to. But it's still okay, because that's the beauty of what Jesus teaches in the Bible, is that you get a chance to have a brand new you this semester. You know, that's what studies and psychologists would say, is there's 2 really developmental points in your life. First one is where kind of my daughters are at right now, it's birth to about 3 years old. The second most foundational developmental point in your life, where you really kind of define and decide who you're going to be, is your college years, 18 to about 25 years old. You get a chance to say, hey, I want to define or redefine who I am, regardless of what your past has looked like, what life has looked like before showing up here at K-State. This is a picture of a guy named Mike Trout, plays for the Anaheim Angels, one of the most dominant baseball players in the major leagues. He's currently leading the league in home runs right now with 43. Okay, what's interesting about Mike Trout is that when Mike Trout goes up to bat, he fails 70% of the time. So 7 out of 10 at-bats, he strikes out. But he's currently the most dominant home run hitter in the major leagues. And I bet what makes Mike Trout so successful is Mike Trout has short-term memory. Is that every time he steps up, he's kind of a new batter. I bet he's not dwelling on that 70% times of what he's done in the past. But he's thinking about the opportunity he has in front of him each time he's at bat, which leads to him being such a successful major league hitter. And I think the Bible teaches the exact same thing with our faith. Is that God wants us to have, He obviously wants us to learn, He wants us to surrender, He wants us to make Him the centerpiece of our life, but He also wants us to have a short-term memory and not let our past hold us back from a new start in our faith. He never wants that to get in the way. This is a passage from the Apostle Paul, who, interestingly enough, his old name was Saul, one of the most prominent figures in the New Testament, besides Jesus. His name was Saul because he lived so much in opposition to how God wanted him to live. And then he had a real encounter with God, and he changed his name. God actually changed his name to Paul. And this is what he's writing in Philippians 3, is he's talking about this new you type of mentality. He's saying, hey, brothers and sisters, he's talking to a group of young folks that are trying to grow in their faith. He says, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. He's saying, hey, I haven't arrived yet. I'm not there yet. He says, but one thing I do, he says, I forget what's behind. I have short-term memory, and I never let my past hold me back from making strides and taking steps forward in my faith and my relationship with God. He says, forgetting what is behind, and I strain towards what is ahead. He said, I press on toward the goal, knowing Jesus, a personal relationship with him, to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. Man, Paul is encouraging these group of young folks that are looking at growing their faith to say, hey, I knew you. Forget what's behind. God's desire is for you to move forward and proactively look at what it means to be in a relationship with him. Hey, here's an encouragement for a new you. So here's what I want you to envision. Just literally a few days ago, you guys were unpacking your car, right? For the school year. Okay, hard to imagine, 8 months down the road, May 2020, you're repacking your car, probably with a few more possessions that you've acquired over the last 8 months, and you're heading home for the summer. I know it's a crazy thought to think about right now, but it's going to go like that. Is that you're repacking your car, but what do you want to be true when it comes to your relationship with God? As I think about me repacking my car, driving back to Kansas City or Wichita or wherever I'm from, is I'm thinking about what I want to be true in my relationship with God, that I really legitimately this year looked into and explored who God was. Or this year I really saw, hey, what's God's design and plan for my life, my personal life? Or what's it look like for me to have and to know Jesus Christ on a relational level and experience him in what he's designed for me? So I want you to literally take just 20 seconds and I want you to jot a couple things down on that sheet of paper. By May 2020, packing up my car, heading out for the summer, what do I want to be true of my relationship with God? Hey, how to make the most of this year is a new you. Don't let the past hold you back from moving forward in your relationship with God. No matter how well you feel like you've done when it comes to your relationship with God, or no matter how absent your relationship with God has been, man, strive to be a new you. The second one is a new view. Is begin to adapt a new view. What this is just, man, a willingness to allow God to make some changes. Whatever that may look like. Is, hey, God, man, I want to start with a new me, and I also want to have a new view. You know, we kind of have this mentality when it comes to a lot of things. Until I experience those things, my mentality may not change. So I feel like everybody I talk to loves Bang. Okay? And I've had one drink of Bang. I didn't think it was that great. Probably the reason those who drink Bang love it so much is there's an unreal amount of caffeine in a Bang. It's like 4 times as much as Red Bull. But the guys who have experienced it and given it a shot, and the girls who experience it give it a shot, love it. I mean, the name is Bang. Like, you know what you're getting into at that point. Hey, I would say Adidas shoes. For the last couple years, they've been making a resurgence. I've been a diehard Nike guy my whole life. And I actually started having some tendonitis in my foot. And I had a really good buddy of mine who actually also loves Nike a ton, actually bought me a pair of Adidas shoes. And me wearing Adidas shoes, I am fired up about Adidas shoes now. I still love Nike, but the comfort level of Adidas shoes, because I experienced it, I was willing to let my view be changed. You know, you guys think about that with college. No matter what you experienced in high school, your view and perspective of college until you actually got to college changed. Probably wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be your major. You know, you probably had some preconceived notions about it, but as you actually got further, or getting further in your major, there's perspectives that are actually changing. And the same thing that God desires for us as we think about our year ahead is to say, hey, I'm going to have a new view. God, I'm willing that, you know, as I think about my life, as I think about my purpose, as I think about you and, you know, what the Bible teaches, and, man, different areas of my life, I'm at least willing to let you change for the better some areas of my life. Begin to change them a little bit. Here's a quote. It says, I really regret growing in my relationship with God in college. In my 10 years working with guys and girls, I've never ever heard anybody say this quote. Or anything ever close to it. And that's a pretty good number of folks that I've had a chance to interact with and get to know and build friendships with and know from a distance. Is that the men and women over the last 10 years that I've encountered and got to know and watch really be willing to have a new view on their life and God and faith and giving it a legitimate shot. Man, have never ever said this. I mean, you would think over 10 years after interacting with hundreds of men and women that are really taking their faith seriously in college, there would be someone who'd be like, man, it was a waste of time. Wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But I've never heard anybody say this before, that I really regret. If anything, it's, man, I'm so grateful that I took and adopted a new view and really got to know God and allowed him to begin to change some things in my life actually for the better, things that actually worked. Romans 12, this is Paul again, and he's encouraging folks. He says, hey, don't conform to the pattern of this world. He says, hey, just don't fall in line with what necessarily the world tells you works. He says, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. He goes, hey, be willing to find out that actually God's plan for your life, a relationship with him, it actually works. It's not a broken system. It's actually going to work and it's going to be effective. He says, then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is. It's good, pleasing, and perfect will. God's will for your life absolutely works. It's not broken at all. It's what's going to lead to life and life ultimately to the full. He goes on, Colossians 3 says, set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. He says, hey, as you're thinking about your life in college, don't just think about the next week or the next semester, the next year. Paul's encouraging these folks to say, hey, have a new view and view life, not just in light of your 4 years in college, but life beyond college. And do something that is sometimes challenging for people your age to do, and think about life beyond even life in of itself. And it kind of puts things in perspective to say, hey, I've got a new view. Suddenly my life has even greater meaning. Knowing God has even greater urgency, and finding his purpose for my life is even more important for me today. One of the greatest ways, in my opinion, to gain a new view is to begin to expose yourself to what God has given to us in his word. And so a couple of encouragements for you is if you expose yourself to God's word. One simple one is like maybe download the Bible app and just for a few minutes a day read a chapter of the Bible. The book of John is a great place to start. And that may be a good way to say, hey God, I want to see you begin to work in my life, expose myself to your views that may change the way I operate, help me see a life that actually works and a life that functions, a life that pleases you. One thing I do that would be simple for you is when I jump in my truck and I'm driving around town, I'll listen to a few songs, but then also on the Bible app, you can actually have them read the Bible out loud to you. And I'll just listen to a chapter, and then I'll go back to listening to music. It could be an idea for you is if I'm wanting to gain a new view, as I think about my college experiences, maybe as I'm walking to class, just listen to one chapter a day. You know, here at Stumo Night, over the next semester, we're actually going to have two main series that we're going to do. And we're actually going to unpack these ideas of biblical truth and how it relates to God's view of your life and how he can help you have the most successful God-honoring life. The first series we're going to do is called Ask Me a Question. It's kind of a little bit of play off of social media where we're going to deal with some of the most common questions that college students have about knowing God and growing in their faith during college. And so for about the next 5 or 6 weeks, each one of our staff is going to unpack a different topic and a question that really is really relevant to where you guys need to see, hey, what's God say about this? And how does this help change my view of what God desires for my life? The second is stories. It's kind of the idea of an Instagram story or a Snap story where we're going to kind of zoom in, if there was social media back in the day of Jesus, and watch a quick interaction between Jesus and somebody in the Bible. And what we'll find is that Jesus interacts with these folks, these quick stories, there's going to be a lot of truth that really applies to help us see a new view on life that God desires us to have. Here's an encouragement for a new view. Have a steady intake of God's word. Maybe even perhaps daily, even if it's just for 1 minute a day. Begin to allow God's word to have a new positive working view in your life. And I wanted to invite one of you up to share what this looked like to gain a new view of just growing in the faith in college. And so we've asked Dylan England, one of my good buddies, to come up and share exactly what that journey has looked like for him as he's grown and gained a new view of his faith in college. So welcome up, Dylan.
What's up, guys? So yeah, as he said, my name's Dylan, and I'm a senior in final this year. So I grew up in a pretty solid Christian family. Dad was an elder in the church. Mom was pretty involved with like vacation Bible school, stuff like that. So it's a big part of my background, and we went about every Sunday. And so going into high school, I was looking to just get involved in sports and pursuing grades, and also just kind of party scene girls a lot, like a lot of my friends were doing. And man, I was going to church every Sunday still, and wouldn't call myself a Christian really if you had asked me. But really outside of Sunday morning, there just wasn't a ton in my life. And so this kind of continued into college as I joined a fraternity, and was really looking just to get that whole college experience that I really thought a fraternity would offer to me. And right after that, I actually met an older guy in the house named Caleb, and he asked me about my faith. And I was kind of weirded out, honestly. I was like, what the heck? Like, I thought I joined a fraternity, like, why is this guy asking me about God and stuff? But I was interested just because of the background that I come from, and so I started looking at my faith a little bit. and was looking just to kind of grow in that, but really didn't want to just kind of give up in the fraternity lifestyle that I was looking to be involved in, and just wasn't exactly sure the best way to go about that. And so I remember one night just being at a party actually with Caleb, and we were just hanging out there, and I was there for just the party scene and trying to live that up, and he was there to hang out with the guys and to hang out with me, and I remember having even a lot of really cool conversations with him at the party, and just slowly but surely I started to notice just how different his life was from mine, and also just how much he seemed to be enjoying his life a lot more than I was enjoying mine. And so I remember towards the end of that first semester, kind of coming to a point where just was left just very empty, just kind of from the double life that I was living, trying to grow my faith, but also and trying to live for some other things. And just remember coming to a point where, I just realized that I needed to really kind of give God full control and just go all in with Him. And so I started following Christ, and with that started just learning how to read my Bible, started learning how to pray, got involved with Bible study, started coming to Stumo nights, and just meeting a ton of people who were also just interested in growing in their faith, and even learned how to share my faith with others and impact them just as Caleb had done with me. And another thing that I've just been super grateful for has just been some of those buddies that have started following Christ with me, and just how we've been able to encourage one another, really challenge one another, and just help each other and look in our faith and grow just in our relationships with God. And kind of through all this, I've just started to realize and just how I've gotten to just experience life to the full, or this abundant life that the Bible actually talks about in John 10:10. And it's cool just to reflect even back on my freshman year, how as I was coming in, there was just so many things that I was looking for, and for that joy, for that fulfillment and contentment, and just really seeking that life to the full, doing it my way. But just what I found out was that, that life to the full was really found in Christ, just through relationship with Him. So yeah, that's my story. Thanks for letting me share. Go ahead and welcome up back Heath.
That view of the new Dylan, even though there was a spiritual background there was a lot of history, but even as he saw the need to gain a new view, as Caleb had been sharing his life with him, had been exposing him to God's Word, helping him grow in that faith, really realizing, hey man, I've got to have a new view. I've got to let God's Word change me, I've got to make a decision. It even goes in a little bit to the next one, is not only a new you, a new view, but also a new crew. You got to think your new crew. Now, here's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you got to go clean house on all your current friends. That's not it at all. I don't think that would be God's desire. But I think there is if you want to experience a new year where you grow in your faith, you got to think about a group of people that can really help you grow in that faith. A couple of years, actually, not this summer before, I was reading a biography on a Navy SEAL. I've got a couple buddies that are in the military special operations, so it's always been a kind of a side interest of mine. But in this book, he kind of documented his life before he joined the SEALs, his training with the SEALs, and then even some of the missions he went on. And later in the book, he made a really interesting comment where he said, a Navy SEAL on his own is not that effective. It's like, that's interesting. He kind of unpacked the reality that, in a lot of movies and media, it makes Navy SEALs kind of seem like this James Bond type of character, like this Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, where they can just take out an entire country by themselves. He goes, but what's interesting is if you look at the training, even in these pictures of the Navy SEALs, everything is dependent on other people. Is it really a Navy SEAL is trained to rely on the man to his right and to the man to his left and the man behind him and in front of him? And that's how all of his training, from the day he shows up, from the day he transitions to mission training, to the day he goes on mission, everything is relying on those around him. He says, man, in a sense, he was saying a Navy SEAL is ineffective by themselves. And that's really the third reality. Is I've heard, again, over the last 10 years, there's kind of been a statement that I've heard people unfortunately make before, where they say, hey, I'm just going to figure this faith thing out on my own. And it's kind of hard, because there's an ounce of truth to that, is that faith is very personal. Knowing Jesus is a person. But also, faith can't flourish and it can't grow in isolation. It's just not how God ultimately designed it to be. Is really to grow in a person's faith, there has to be other people there to really help them grow in their faith. There's a spiritual parallel there. In Proverbs 13:20, I think it's a real true statement. It says, walk with the wise and grow wise, for the companion of fools suffers harm. This kind of timeless spiritual truth out of Proverbs is true. Is, man, if I walk with those who have prioritized their relationship with God, doesn't mean it's all of my friends, but that I've prioritized some friends, even if I don't know them or they're different stages of life than I am, but man, that they're walking with wisdom and knowing God and pursuing Him, then I'm going to, by nature, grow wise. And I'm going to become a new person that honors God. And I learn what it looks like to grow a relationship with Him. But man, if I just fill my life with people who don't know God and have no desire to know Him, then spiritually I'm going to actually suffer harm. And so an encouragement for me in college, sophomore year of college is when I really began to experience God. That's when I realized my need for Christ. I really trusted fully in Him. I actually transferred here to K-State. And even though I was on the football team, I had friends from all different realms of campus that were very serious about their faith. And it was good for me because it really encouraged me. You know, when I was struggling in my faith, they were there to help lift me back up and challenge me and kind of put strength into me. And I was able to provide that for them too. I was close with my teammates. I'm still building friendships with my teammates, but it was important for me to have a new crew that really helped me grow in my faith. And so, again, whatever that looks like for you, of thinking through, hey, what's that going to be for me to have a new crew that really helps and assists me over this next year to grow in my faith. So here's the encouragement for your new crew, is fight to be close to those who will fight for your relationship with God. Man, even if I have to take initiative or I have to carve out time, or man, even if we're from a different background or different ages, or we don't always have the same interests, what's it look like for me to say, oh, I want you to be close with me because I see your relationship with God and I want that same thing. Or we're in the same boat, we're both trying to live out this faith, let's tighten down this friendship so that we can benefit a ton from it. A couple days before school started, I made a foolish decision and decided to resurface my ceiling. And so I was like, sometimes I don't calculate like how long things take and how hard they're going to be. And so we had removed our furniture to shampoo our carpets, and I was like, all right, let's just take this thing down and just do it. And my wife, again, she's very wise. She's like, hey, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, let's just do it. So when I get something in my mind, I just want to do it. So anyway, we decided to resurface the ceiling of our guest bathroom, our hallway, our living room, which is kind of pitched a little bit, our dining room and kitchen. So anyway, I did a lot of research. I mean, YouTube is very educational on how to do anything. And so what I found out with this specific ceiling we have is if you'll mix water with vinegar and you'll spray it on the ceiling, it'll actually absorb that water that you can use just a scrape to scrape it off. Okay, it's actually not that complicated. It's an absolute mess, but it's not that complicated. And so the majority of the rooms, you know, I would just spray a little water and I'd soak it up and I'd scrape it off. But then I got to our kitchen, which our kitchen 3 years ago, we decided to repaint that same area that had the same texture on it. We put 2 coats of high-end Sherwin-Williams paint on it. Okay, so before where I'd spray it and I'd just scrape it off, I'd spray it and it was like trying to scrape concrete. Well, you know, 90% of my upstairs is now scraped and I can't just like bail on this. And so what it took was I had to scrape and I had to scrape and I had to chisel and I had to spray and respray and respray. And what that paint had done, it created a barrier and it hardened on that ceiling. With the help of Blake Slaughter, again, you get a middle linebacker to help you scrape your ceiling, it just kind of helps. Like, it's just a lot more easy. But we ended up getting it done. And I was thinking about that this week of just the parallels. A lot of ways is those surfaces that are on paint is as I've seen it, as people have experienced it, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like your college experiences. God wants to, in a lot of ways, improve and resurface your heart and your spiritual life. And college is really the best time to do it. It's the best time to be a new you, to have a new view, and get a new crew that's going to help you start brand new and grow in your faith. But what I've seen also is people that say, hey, this isn't that important, and I don't know if I want to take those steps. Maybe there's a couple challenging things when it comes to my faith. There's some effort that's required. It kind of becomes like that ceiling that we have painted where it kind of hardens, in a sense. And it's a lot more work. It takes a lot more time in the end. At the end of the day, for an amateur, I was actually pretty pleased with how it turned out. It looked all right to me. It's not great, so just the picture maybe I doctored it a little bit, I don't know. But in the same way, it's like, man, you put the effort in to really maximize your faith and to take a new step, no matter where you're coming from in your faith in college this next year, I guarantee you absolutely will not regret it. Hey, for the next couple minutes, I want you guys to just discuss with the people around you this topic. So we're going to have you talk about these 2 questions, and then the guys are going to jump back up on stage and tell you guys about a couple more opportunities. So the first one is, what gets you the most excited about the potential of growing your faith this new school year? And then after everybody gets to share for a couple minutes, then just transition quickly to the next question. Then of the 3 news, the new you, view, and crew, what one step you want to take to help you make the most of growing in your relationship with God this year. So talk about that with the friends around you, and then the guys will jump back up here.